By the way, 9.8% of the world's GDP.
Technically stands for the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, aka COBRA.
Yeah, it does.
We're American. You know how to beat them up back.
I'll be so mad. I'll be biblically mad. Doesn't matter.
Hell yeah. As I casually make notes in the background. I'm that person in the cubicle. When people are meeting, I'm just in the background.
Yeah, you're the one getting carpal tunnel and running the insurance costs up. Then, you know, your job's going to end up charging you more for that insurance because you used it.
But you're not wrong. Now I'm a liability. Although according to the company, I've always been a liability.
That's all employees are, liability. You're just a tax number, guy.
We're not assets. If we were assets, we'd be treated like them and upgraded and treated well. Jesus.
Right. Well, that's why some companies have little secret code names for their layoff operations. Like, was it code name COBRA? Like, they call it that because that's the insurance you get. You know, COBRA insurance. You've heard of it. It's that letter you get 2 weeks after your old policy expires after you were laid off. The one that says your insurance is now $800 a month. If you don't pay within 60 days, you'll be fined.
Yep. I had when I was in Southern California, I got a quote of like $1,100 a month to maintain the insurance that I had prior, and I was like, absolutely fucking not. That, like, no. I was just moving from company to company, so I was okay there. But it was still one of those situations of like, if I had been fired in this situation, like, I just lost my job. Everything can go to shit because so many of us are paycheck to paycheck. And now I have to pay more money? Like, God damn it.
It's interesting that you brought up job switching so early. I didn't plan on getting to that topic so early. But here we are. We switch jobs about every 2.5, 3 years now, on average. Basically, anyone under like 45 haven't really worked a job for longer than 5 years at a time.
Yeah.
That highlights an employee as a liability to an insurance company, because why would an insurance company continue to provide coverage for someone who's not going to be listed with them anymore in 2 years? If you have a long-term condition, especially, like, they're just looking at you as someone who's going to be saying, all right, thanks for the money, Dad. I'm going to go fuck off out this way now to someone else going to give me more money for this.
The interesting part about this conversation too is I was trying to imagine it from other countries' points of view, because like it's pretty common on Reddit for people in Europe to be like, whoa, hold on. How does this work in the United States? And like everything you just described, I'm sitting here like, yeah, that's 110% accurate to our experience here in the United States. But I'm just thinking about other countries where that's not a thing at all.
Well, it's not a thing because they don't have the amount of spending that we do. CNBC in 2022, healthcare costs in the U.S. alone have risen to $8.5 trillion.
That takes into account the complex that runs it, I imagine, yeah? Because it's not just like, we're not the bare bones cost, it's the
not
whole
individual
system.
spending. That's insane.
Yeah.
But it's all of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the insurance agencies.
That's, by the way, 9.8% of the world's GDP. The United States spends 10% of the money in the world on its own health, or rather its own sickness. It's not treating shit. It's not keeping you healthy. Doctors are kind of idiots, honestly. Like they really don't know a whole hell of a lot to keep you healthy. They're mechanics.
I mean,
and by the way, 98% or 90 something, low 90% of specialist doctorates do not require you to have 1 semester of nutrition courses.
I mean, that kind of tracks with the U.S. and how it rolls. Like, we have a powerful medical system in some places, but most of what we encounter is not gonna be that. I mean, there's a lot of studies, and I don't have all the specifics. We'll have to do one on that. But if we were to actually like adopt a government healthcare system, a lot of that drops. We would save a bunch of money on our annual budgets, but also, like, on the real note, I don't get why jumping from one job to another should affect by like medical concerns. Like, dear God, especially if I get laid off, like, what if I get sick and then I need to be taken care of? Like, it doesn't make sense that it all just washes down the hill. Like, it's in the same vein that it doesn't make sense that you can only sign up for insurance like on these certain periods and stuff.
Yeah, open enrollment, and special enrollment. The only 2 periods you can enroll. And special enrollment is anytime after January, basically.
Yeah.
What a bizarre. That's not a law, by the
Yeah,
way.
no,
That's not a
like,
law. That's just practice. That's just industry practice. It's
yeah.
like us working Monday to Friday is not a law. It's just what we do.
It feels like one of those things too of like, well, if we're paying into this, we can only join at this specific time. Shouldn't it last until the next period starts? Like, maybe that's the catch on these. I don't know. But also, like, I don't think businesses should have to pay for it. I think it's the government's job to take care of this shit. Works great everywhere else. We
At
have
the
bigger
very least,
budgets.
provide us a good option, like a viable option. You have the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, the ACA, whatever you want to call it. All it really did is create a marketplace for insurance companies to go on and be like, discounted rate because government subsidies for us. And
Yeah.
then they give you even less of a coverage, but it costs you more.
Well, and then a chunk of the ACA gave a lot of people access to healthcare they'd never had before. But at the same
It
time,
absolutely did.
it got like caught up in our mucky system again, where like COBRA's stuff. Somewhere someone thought this was a helpful thing, and I could see how it would evolve from a concept of, hey, hold on, Charles, I got an idea. Hold on. So like, there's this problem where if people get laid off or they're fired, they lose their insurance. So I guess, what if we had a system that would grab them and help them from there? But then somehow our system grabbed it and went, yeah, we could charge them a fuck ton at the same time. And it just went off the rails.
Do you want to know why I think it's so expensive to have COBRA?
Mm.
They want you back on private insurance. COBRA insurance is not insurance. It's
just allowing you to stay on.
Given to you by the Department of Labor.
Yeah.
So Aetna, Cigna, United Health, none of these guys are getting that $800 a month. The fucking government is. The government who has a $916 billion military budget, or about 40% of the world's total military spending.
God.
But we can't afford to just give the people who are actually paying into the system a good set of healthcare at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Funded or provided rather by some government entity. I'm not all for strong or big government. I'm for strong government.
Yeah.
I'm not for big government.
Efficient
I think
government.
this though. Yes.
Yeah.
Those. I think this though is one of those opportunities where I'm willing to concede that like a little bit bigger of a government in this area is a good thing. It has a very strong potential to be a good thing anyway, because it's a pretty low stakes thing. Like it's not low stakes, it's insurance, right? But it just isn't nefarious. Like it's not out to grab your money. It's just like there to help you.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a booster, and well, okay, what it's supposed to mean is like, you are insured. You should feel sure of this. Like, but instead it evolved into this weird shit where we're at now, which then makes COBRA look, it's very let them eat cake when you are in a bad situation. You know, where you hear that and you're like, how fucking dare you think I can afford this much? Like, not okay.
Yeah. But that's what I mean, like pressure on you to immediately go back into the workforce
100%.
and to buy into the next private policy that you get. It's almost like the ACA and COBRA was made by private insurance in conjunction with the government.
Wait, was it? Oh no. Do we need to look this up? Hold on.
I didn't look that up. This is just an intuition that I have. This is what my intuition is telling me, rather.
Okay, so we can also define this. We're definitely a little rusty. We should define our topic before we jump in, but that's my bad. Okay, so... Jesus. Oh, no. Reagan. No.
Is it BlackRock? Already?
No, that would be crazy.
10 minutes in.
So... Yeah, so this is technically stands for the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, aka COBRA.
Yeah, it does. Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. Omnibus being the single best word that I've ever seen in a government document.
Very Latin, like you just wanted to sound like you were about to conquer Gaul. But, so it was 1985. It was signed into law by President Reagan. Part of a large legislative package that was aimed at revising several federal programs, including tax laws and employee benefits. Provisions related to healthcare continuation were introduced to address a growing concern: individuals losing employer-sponsored health insurance after job termination or other qualifying events. Da, 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 da.
There are 7 qualifying events, by the way. I don't know what they are, but there are 7.
Um, the frustrating part about this too is like, again, okay, so if we talk about the system from the conception, it sounds like a good idea. I get fired. I lose my insurance. What if that health insurance was paying for my family as well? My family's now out of health insurance. Just a ripple of bad things. But if government were to step in here theoretically and be like, well, hey, we'll give you a good runway. Figure it out. Okay, cool. I'm going to go get a job. If I get sick, I know I'm taken care of. Like, fucking God forbid I break my leg. Like, something like that. If this just stepped in and filled that role, I think that would be like, that would almost be a good starting point for universal healthcare in this country, because it's a baby step for people to be like, actually, my son fell off a roof when he was trying to switch jobs, and this helped him through it. Like, but charging, hold on, where is my stats on this? Under COBRA, you're responsible for the entire health insurance premium, which includes both your previous contribution and the portion your employer paid. This means you'll pay 100% of the premium, wait for it, plus an administrative fee of up to 2%.
2%.
So you're paying more to have what you had, and now you're already...
While making nothing, by the way.
Yeah, and then they add an extra up to 2% on top of it. That's just spitting in the wound at this point. What the hell?
Like, when you're getting unemployment, you're getting like $600 every 2 weeks or something. You're not getting shit. So you're basically just...
Yeah.
They're just taking their money back. Well,
Yeah.
Unemployment state, so I guess the federal government's just taking the money from the state and out of your pocket, though. You're just the middle guy. You're the bank teller from federal government to the state. That's what you are.
Yeah.
When you're buying COBRA insurance.
I mean, think about it. Like, it works out for the insurance companies. So the insurance companies don't have any liability here. They just lose the thing. That goes away. Their risk goes down with the person vanishing, but yeah, they make a little bit less. But if the person stays on, they get fully paid. It's a hell of an act. And it seems about right for both sides of our Congress and House to look at that and just see like, oh yeah, it got monetized out the ass. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it's because private insurance got their hands on it. It has to be.
Yeah,
like you said it, I think twice at this point. I think you're probably right. Where in the 80s they came up with this idea like, we got to come up with something because these people are getting hurt or while they're not working and they're unable to afford these medical bills. But instead of throttling the medical, I was going to say community, don't throttle medical community, the medical like industry to a degree, they just supplement it and allow medicine just to continue to rise in price. And I mean like rise and rise and rise. I don't have a number on it, but it's got to be fucking on par with, higher education. It's got to be close to that.
So there's these really interesting things I've noticed about the U.S. where a dramatic zoom, where, for example, small grocery stores struggle to exist because once upon a time there was a law that said, okay, the big grocery stores, if they're going to come together and go to their producers, produce, get it, producer, anyway. If they were to do that, and that producer was to cut them a very good discount because they're a big conglomerate, well, they are now legally obligated to provide the same discounts to everyone else in their portfolio. And that was a very smart thing to do. That took the bargaining power away from the big companies. That took the power and put it back in the hands of the small companies. But eventually that got overthrown, and the big companies got to turn around and lobby and basically be like, hey, we'll just not buy from you unless you drop our prices down. And that's been hurting everything. Healthcare is kind of the same way. There's certain aspects of the negotiation process where like the government's not allowed to necessarily negotiate the price of something. The insurance companies can just set a price. That's a broken system. Like, we need to be able to... The U.S. government needs to be able to throw it around its goddamn weight. We have a military budget for a reason. We're supposed to be the big kids on the block.
Not only do we have a military budget, we have police investment nationwide increasing 189% from $47 billion to $135 billion in the last couple of years.
I mean, the elite have been getting increasingly scared about the population rising while asking us to have more babies, while also doing stupid things like saying Americans are retarded and you have to hire foreigners. Yeah.
But I wanted to close that loop from earlier. I just
Hmm.
kind of got sidetracked reading. Wow, because anyway,
I
well,
feel
close that
it.
loop from earlier because I think you're onto something when you're saying that like this was made with good intentions. Like in the '80s, they were like, yeah, let's get because these people, getting hurt off the job when they're out of work, whatever. They have medical bills.
Yeah.
Instead of doing something to make medicine cheaper, they just made that a little bit easier. But what that's doing is stressing out the finances of the government too, and ultimately the taxpayers because we're the ones that have to pay for that.
We
I
have a
would rather my
leech.
money, and I think you would too, and I think you listening would too. I would rather my money go to helping the medical industry to become more viable for people like
Oh my God.
who
Yeah. Where they're
make
like
insurance less
cancer.
money.
Ha ha ha.
Ultimately is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There is one thing to be said about healthcare being so expensive. There is an argument to be made that it allows for innovation at a rate that no other country can allow because they have restrictions that dictate this and dictate that. At what cost, though? How many of these drugs? I'll tell you how many of these drugs actually are brand new. 2%. 98% of medical patents out there are recycled. They're just, for instance, they'll have like an Oxycontin drug or a hydrocodone drug rather, and then they'll turn it one molecule.
Yeah.
And they'll make it an Oxycontin. Well, now it's layered, right? So it's a different formula to layer. It's slow release. It's slow release, Colin. It's a different form. It's a completely different drug. It's slow release.
God. Well, then
and they get to just redo these patents every 7 years.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, one of my favorite things about this is, like, if you talk to hospital staff, God, if we could get a fucking nurse or a doctor in here, that'd be fucking amazing. That should be on our interview list. I will shamelessly start hunting people. But, like, one of the things that I've gotten to hear from, like, being in the hospital, having people who are in the hospital and whatnot at times, like, there's a lot of frustration, and like the nurses usually feel like they don't have enough people supporting them. The doctors don't feel like they actually can like get past the insurance companies. There's all this frustration, but the admin stuff behind it is insane. And like even my notes pull up a little bit about like administrative overhead is huge because of how complex private insurance is. So if we get rid of the private insurance, or rather, we make private insurance sit out there and it has to compete with a government standard where the government joins the pool and provides a damn good service. Like you said, all that budget goes to the right place. Holy shit, we could cure cancer overnight.
So in the ACA, there's actually a clause that it's an 80-20 clause. So essentially in the ACA, the Obamacare, all that, it says that insurance companies are supposed to put what they get, 80% of what they get from premiums toward the cost, the other 20% can go to overhead.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's accurately reported or honestly reported, highly doubtful. Highly doubtful.
Yeah.
But there is a law saying that they have to put 80% of their proceeds from premiums to that. So what other source of revenue are they getting?
It blows my mind.
We are heading for a health insurance collapse. There's no doubt in my mind about that at this point. Like, what we have going on right now is unsustainable unless there's a big reform pretty immediately. I just like, honestly, even if it doesn't become like a government single payer, whatever model, a competition would help drive down the price, right?
Yeah. Should help with the government can actually negotiate prices, which I believe they can't currently.
But I don't think they can either, because actually I know they can't, because insurance companies set the price. And I'll tell you how I know that is because, let's say you're a pharmacist, you're a compounding pharmacist, you own a pharmacy making the things, you can sell a drug at $4 for, whatever the case is, you make $2, whatever. And the moment the person buying that drug mentions they have insurance, you're under a gag clause for owning that pharmacy. You're no longer allowed to even mention that you have cash prices. You are required by law to sell them that drug at insurance prices. That will probably be $10 for a $4 pill. Problem with that is when insurance is paid out like that, when insurance buys the drug from the pharmacy, they get a cut of it. It's an affiliate program. Essentially. In the most basic of terms, it's an affiliate program. So, and it's usually like 10%, right? So the person gets half of the profits that they would have gotten otherwise. And then the person buying the drug has to spend $10 instead of $4. And
God.
all of the rest of it goes to insurance.
Yep.
So it's not just the premiums.
Oh, it's fucking insane. And like, I'm sure there's all sorts of lobbying stuff. Do we know that there's a pipeline between political careers and lobbyists there to
Absolutely is.
immediate pipeline over here to this topic, to medical?
The FDA routinely goes like heads of departments in the FDA will routinely write legislation, write laws for the jobs they go to work for 7 years later, making what, $450K a year?
God, and you just chill through it because really your job is done.
How is that not illegal, by the way?
You know,
How the fuck is that not illegal?
Because it should be, but the system's not exactly made for all of us. Like, that's the thing that, like...
No, it's not. But but it's just one of those things. Like,
class.
if you work for the federal government, you're working for me. You're working for you. You're working for you listening. You're not working for Pfizer, motherfucker. Right. There should be a clause in your, like, there should be a non-compete. If you work for a federal agency at that level in whatever related field, you're not allowed to work in a related industry. If you work in Congress, you're not allowed to work at the NRA.
Yeah.
Just as like a really broad example.
No,
if you work in the FDA, you're not allowed to go and work for Johnson & Johnson as a specific example.
And we know the answer to this is like a lot of people in power have money and are corrupted by money, and it's just the age-old human problem. It's interesting to me too, like we've seen great examples of humanity coming together to like rise up. Like, this is a dumb example, but for a capitalist example, Japan at one point was starting to go bankrupt, so all the citizens donated to bring the country out of bankruptcy, and it worked. That's an amazing example.
Steal gold from mattresses to end the Great Depression. That's the difference here.
Yup.
That's the fucking difference here.
It's super crazy.
I didn't cut you off. But...
No, that's kind of the point on it. Is like there's this ability that we can all get together and do stuff, but right now we're all so divided on this topic that like, yeah, our topic is COBRA insurance and like you get fired, it fucking sucks. But really our topic is we all know this isn't okay. Why are we all accepting this? Let's get it changed. And unfortunately, if the system is going to beat us up, well, we're American. We know how to beat them up back.
We know how to beat them up back.
Can't put it in any more way. My country boy came out for that one.
How would you go about trying to change a system like this? You're talking the Department of Labor, the Department of Health and Human Services are in charge of doling out the payments. The Department of Labor handles the private sector. The Department of Health and Human Services handles the public sector. Don't know why they're split. It's just how it was written. And
I think, honestly, it might end up being one of those things of like, it's not just trying to vote. It's also going to be protests and saying like, no, we don't stand for it. Most powerful thing we can do is all work together.
See, I don't know how to fight that because the heads of those departments are appointed. They're not voted in.
Oh, yeah.
The Department of Health and Human Services, for instance, Trump appointed Tulsi Gabbard, who I support that decision.
Fair.
I like that. But
we're not putting pressure on those people.
I don't know how to change that because I don't know how to influence that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, you can vote presidents, you can vote senators and stuff, but they're going to put in whoever they're going to put in.
Oh, yeah. And we also have that lovely in between of the Electoral College, which is another thing a lot of us all agree on, of like, nuke that old piece of shit.
Yeah, we did an episode on the Electoral College, by the way. Turns out your old mayors and your old sheriffs and your old aldermans, those are the ones who are making the actual decisions, not you.
Yep.
Those are your neighbor, your actual retired city councilman is the one making your fucking election decisions there.
Yep. And they are technically very rarely bound by oaths. Like they can kind of do what they want.
No, they're elected, are they not?
They're elected, but it's like being a sheriff. You know, you have
right. No, I mean, like they're not elected by us. They're elected by like the senators and shit. Or they're appointed rather. They're probably appointed. I'll have to go back and watch the series or watch the episode.
But yeah, no, I think honestly, it's more when we get to this scale on it because it's like there's calls for mass strikes in 2028, which is not too far away. if that works, the whole point of it is to grind everything to a halt and show everyone like, hey, this isn't working. Peacefully, I would hope, but we'll see what happens on both
It won't
sides.
go peacefully. Not everywhere.
No, of course, we're humans. That's the thing about us.
And that's if we make it until 2028 without another. There was just another guy stabbed the president of I forget the name of the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, stabbed.
He might be a copycat. Yeah. At some point, the people
the guy just. If only they had given him a pizza party.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things. It would be more like mass movements, because what will really make the powerful stop and realize they've got enough they can share a little bit is those profits grinding to a halt. Like, think of how picky they are over giving people like $1 an hour wage raises. Like, they start hemorrhaging millions.
No shit.
Like,
no shit. Meanwhile, their fucking dumbass CEO's making $200K a year to sit on his ass and just drool on his fucking lap.
Dude, $200K is like on the lower end now. Here's the worst part. We're getting into like 8, 9, 1 mil. Like,
I was really thinking more specifically.
Frankie?
I fucking hope he's not getting paid $200K. Oh, I'll be so mad. I'll be biblically mad. Doesn't matter.
Because the answer is everyone should be paid equitably at a living wage.
You know,
oh god,
I'll be so mad. I'll have COBRA insurance soon. That's how mad I would be.
God, that needs to be like a thing, like COBRA as a movement, but like as a sassy movement against it. Yeah, like you said,
COBRA meme, like Pepe.
I'm about to qualify for COBRA on this place. Quits, walks out.
Whoa! That is some spicy talk. I'm about to qualify for COBRA. I'm about to Operation COBRA myself.
Right? You just like fucking have a Cobra Kai shirt and then do the freaking Water Tribe exit on the way out. Like Cobra Kai.
You go to the parking lot and you just turn into Jafar and the giant actual Cobra from Aladdin. Jasmine just comes out of the door and she's like, well, I guess I'm eating that.
That's how this works. Oh god.
That was dirty, man. Jafar, how old do you think Jafar was? Jasmine had to have been like 16.
Yeah, like if that. Jafar was creepy and ancient. He was magical. He could have been hundreds of years.
Jasmine was my first cartoon crush as a kid.
Fair. I think it was Belle for me.
Belle? That's solid. You like him classy.
Yeah. It's weird because I was raised on Aerosmith
Brown and hairy, I guess. What? That got you into Led Zeppelin?
No, I was raised on Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith, but somehow I went down this really oddly classical route.
Oh my god, I misheard you. I thought you said Belle got you into Led Zeppelin.
She's closet Led Zeppelin.
Like, I thought she just read and baked bread all day long with a weird, probably autistic father, but nope.
What kind of music do you think she listens to?
Dun dun dun. From what I've seen.
Yeah, it's fair. God, no. It's so weird though, because like I, as a manager, knew that COBRA was bullshit. Like, no one that I ever worked with was like, yes, I'll take COBRA. And I'm kind of glad for it, because I feel like if someone was in that situation and I had to fire them and they were like, yes, I desperately need COBRA, there's probably a really sad good reason. Like, fuck, I need my medication, I need my insulin, I need my whatever it is. And I would just feel like such a piece of shit. This is something I struggle with in this country. Is I walked a very fine line in one company that I worked on where like I knew there was unionization talks going and I didn't do anything about it. It's my fucking business. I support them. They deserve to get paid well. They're a great team. But fuck, like, COBRA's evil. It's an insult.
Well, it is.
No one
it
ever
is because
took COBRA ever.
Insurance and government working together. It's like if Satan fucked himself.
They probably can't.
That is what COBRA is. Like, it's.
No, it's bad.
So the COBRA insurance, like, you keep your exact same plan, right? Yeah. You keep your exact same plan, which means one of two things. I don't know how they came to these plans, right? But it will probably mean one of two things. One, either the health insurance companies just gave them all of their policy information and the government copied it, and then that's what you get.
Yeah.
Or you're just paying United Healthcare through the government and they keep that 2%.
This is a really interesting thing. And Zoom.
Dude, Google Meets has got you pegged, man.
Dude, it does. It's on me. Look, FBI agent, if I'm going to die, I want to be Boromired in a forest while LARPing, okay? It'd be believable. I would feel badass.
He's on the other side of that camera just going,
Fuck knows.
What? he wants to die. Motherfucker, I'm into this.
But yeah, no, like I keep coming back to this constantly of just we don't treat each other well. We don't we let all of this go down, and like we should be supporting each other through all of it. Like, and I guess for me, it's one of those things. It's politicized. We're talking about healthcare and the costs, and the government spends this much, it could spend that much instead. When really, at the end of the day, I want everyone to know who's hearing from me. Don't give a shit about the politics behind it. If anyone listening to this has a major medical emergency, one of their family members does, it seems like it should be a fucking inalienable right that our country will do every fucking thing possible to make sure that your family member comes back to you alive and well. And you should worry about no financial repercussions because you're a citizen of the Great Republic and you provide taxes and military service.
A citizen of the greatest country on the planet.
We won the capitalism experiment.
Their minimum is the option for affordable, decent healthcare. It doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I want to say it doesn't have to be cutting edge because it's government provided. The government doesn't innovate. The government innovates basically nothing.
Yeah, we get a little.
NASA and Nazis innovate. Government doesn't.
Yeah, we're still waiting for Star Trek to explain how their utopia government works.
They haven't. But you get the government involved. You have to get involved in the government to change things, right? So now maybe we have to start talking to the politicians. Maybe let's talk to the politicians like in your local area because your senators and your representatives in your districts do go to Washington.
Yeah.
That is where they work.
Yeah.
Talk to them.
Yeah.
You do have a senator in your neighborhood. I promise you. Just find out where. Not where. I'm sure you're not going to be able to find out where they live. Well, you probably will, but find out how to talk to them. Find out where their office is.
Yeah.
Go and talk to them, badger them. Be like, yo, get on these motherfuckers and stop it. Or if that doesn't work, become senator yourself.
That's the thing, getting out there and trying.
$10,000, you can be bought. It's cheap to buy a senator.
God, that's the worst part about this. That when I started doing research, it was years ago that I started looking into politics in California. It's like, oh, could I run in a district? Like, that'd be interesting to do. And fuck, first of all, it is a very opaque process. Another thing that should be improved upon. It should be as simple as showing up and being like, look, I'm interested in doing this, and someone being like, cool, this is how this works. Yeah,
here's my list of I have a list of signatures nominating me or whatever.
I have 10 good references. Here's my resume. I have a clean crime background.
Here's my lawyer.
Yeah, we're good. What do we have to do? And then you should be facilitated, not whatever this clusterfuck of a system. Actually, more to words my grandfather, this fustercluck of a system.
I'm a fan of Father Mucker myself.
Right? They're so cheap. I was expecting, I was sitting there, I was like, God, yeah, no. If I were gonna go corrupt, if I was just gonna go down the dark path and become the new Mitch McConnell, I'd become his Sith apprentice. Insurance companies are approaching. I know how much you guys make. I'd be like, okay, how much is that worth to you? $2, $3, $4 million over the course of a few years? No, like you said, it's $10,000. In some cases, it's oh, we slipped $3,000 to say we got them one nice purse, and it wasn't even a fucking Gucci. And the senator just flops on their back and is like, "Wee, let's do this!" Fuck. It's so insane.
Here's what one of the things that concerns me about it being so cheap to buy a senator. The typical, the generic rule of economy is supply and demand, right? If supply is high and demand is low, wouldn't that make them cheaper? But if demand is high and supply is high, then that'll kind of balance out. It just seems to me that if it's so cheap, I'm not an economist, so I'll butcher that, but my ultimate point is, if it's so cheap to buy a senator, there's got to be a lot of people just out there buying these motherfuckers, or there's no one doing it.
I mean,
either the market is so saturated, they're doing so many things that they're just like, yeah, just another 10 grand, just come on right over here and I'll get you in.
Yeah. Well, then
or it's like
that's our lobbyist system permits it.
That's exactly what that is.
And that's the worst part. And that's what leads to all this shit. I just had a little fun one where I was like, all right, so single coverage for a person on average in the US is $8,951 a year. That sounds a little low, but fair enough. For a family, it's $25,500.
There we go. For a family, it's 25,000, and the average household income is like 63.
Yeah. And then the average
monthly rent on average is like probably another 40% of that. So at the end of it, you have 12% left to live on: food, gas, utilities.
Yeah. Well, then like the ACA's problem here too is bronze, silver, gold, platinum. Nah, the government doesn't need a fucking plan system. It just needs to be one system you are taking care of.
That's commoditization. It's capitalization right there.
Absolutely.
It just needs to be something that pays for fucking everything, maybe like 90% of everything. And it's a tax system. It's a percentage of whatever your income is.
Oh yeah, that would even be better.
They're going to be paying a higher percentage, and they're probably not going to be like richer people generally are healthier.
Yeah, because they have access to the resources.
Using less of it. Right. And they're just like generally more driven, more active, this kind of thing. I should say, very broadly speaking. But the people up there paying that much are going to comp for the people not paying enough, but being an objectively larger financial burden on the system.
Yeah.
That's just going to be offset. It has to be. Like, it's almost a law of nature. It's like a law of averages, probably. Let me get a statistician on. We'll talk about it.
I'll definitely like piggyback on the nature concept too, because like, yeah, 110%. Like, I think the problem right now is the greed concept leads to these problems. Instead of just, we're going to do this because it's going to take care of the people, which allows, it doesn't stop up the money in areas. It doesn't pull from this river. If money is a river, like, it needs to be an ecosystem. It's the river that goes into the ocean that then goes up into the clouds brings the rain back down on everyone else, and it just keeps the system going. But right now we have no system taking the rain back to everything. So it's just, we're in a drought. That's what debt is. It's just the collapse of that economic ecosystem. And like, this shit, I guess this is the hard part. Our system does not encourage us to think that we're actually able to change a lot of it. Because think of how daunting it is. We're just trying to talk about it right now, and it's a fucking daunting concept. And even if you know where to start, it's going to take resources to do it. It's going to take time to do it. Things that our system doesn't really give a lot of normal people.
Where do we go from here? How do what do we do? It's not instead. We talked a lot about that. What are the alternatives? There we go. That's the question I'm looking for. What is an alternative? We talked about the ACA. If you like the alternative to COBRA, you could go on healthcare.gov. They have the insurance marketplace on there. And
so I guess we're thinking in this specific example, right? So it's like unexpectedly fired or laid off, qualify for COBRA. Even those options suck because you're still going to have to go out there and pay for this stuff when a bad event happened that's going to cut into your money-making process is basically how this all boils down. So it feels like I think this is probably the best part for us to own our vulnerability here. Like, how you got no idea on it. I don't have an idea on like how to make it better, but I feel like the only thing that we can do to start it is to encourage everyone to talk with each other about it and say like, yeah, that's fucked up. We shouldn't be okay with it. And I think the more we start getting people to do this, the more we start to realize like, it's not about red or blue. Both sides suck ass. It's literally, it's us, the American people. What can we do to better our lives? And I bet that conversation leads to it.
I think a lot of people don't talk about it because they're too proud to admit they don't know what the word premium means or deductible means. Or they don't know what 80/20 is. Like, there's just a level of understanding in adulthood that everyone expects you to just have at like 22. Yeah, and then everyone just goes on the rest of their adulthood just pretending like they know what the fuck they're talking about without ever actually having known what a premium is. It's literally just your monthly payment. It's just a fancy way of saying it. But they use these words for a reason. They use these words because they don't want you talking about it. They want it to be boring and confusing to you.
Because the
They
easiest
don't
thing,
want you talking about it. This is exactly why we need you talking about it. Why they need you talking about it. They don't know they do, but we need you talking about it.
The easiest thing in an argument to start picking apart someone else's stuff, and it's a bullshit, illegitimate tactic, is to start attacking it. You use that term inconsistently. You don't even know what you're talking about. You shouldn't be talking about health insurance if you don't understand the vocabulary. Like, it is grade school level bullying that works in today's society. You just got to keep talking about it.
I'm convinced that a lot of that terminology isn't put in there to discourage, like to be intimidating.
Oh yeah, 110%.
What does that mean? What am I deducting from? Tax deduction. Why am I getting more money if it's a deduction from my taxes? What is this?
Well, and I'm paying for a service, which is insurance. How is it that I have to pay when I'm hurt? That's what I'm already doing.
I'm going to.
Yeah, like it's a crazy thing.
That makes as much sense as being behind on child support and then like them taking your license away as a result. Like, how the fuck am I going to pay it now?
Yep.
What?
It's like the age-old classic capitalism trap. You need experience to get an entry-level job. God, our system's dumb.
That is actually a topic we can get into on another day. But this is a great opportunity to wrap up the COBRA insurance segment of this. Stay tuned. We are going to talk about 4-day work weeks. That one's going to be spicy. It's going to be unexpected at the end, I think. So thank you all for sticking around. Those of you watching the live stream, continue to stay. This outro is for the YouTube video. Thank you all for sticking around. You've been awesome. Stay safe out there, people.